You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Move mountains, we gon' walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise like the day. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, I like the waves. I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. The silence isn't quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet. Move mountains, bring it to its feet. Move mountains. And I'll rise like the day. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. That we have each other, and for that we have each other, and we will rise, we will rise, we will rise, we'll rise. I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I will rise 1,000 times again. And we'll rise up, I like the waves. We'll rise up, in spite of the ache. We'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again.
Greetings everyone, I'm Jay Alvito and welcome to the annual Black History Month celebration. We have an action-packed program ahead. But let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the National Anthem. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You can now be seated.
Good morning, everyone. This is Mrs. Dunn welcoming you to our Black History Month celebration. I wish that we could all be together today to celebrate. We are living in a time that I believe will be defined by lasting change and a road to hope and equality for people of color. We are going to hear from members of our school community celebrating just some of the vast contributions that people of color have given to our society. These are people that have inspired us, that need and should be recognized by us, and that have and will continue to have an impact on what is good and just about our nation. To get us started, I want to share two inspiring women. I want to celebrate these Black women in STEM and medical fields because they are breaking both gender and racial barriers and should be celebrated so that when our future is cast, it's cast in a combination of all minds and represents the talent and the diversity that we are here today to celebrate. This is Dr. Markeisha Black, who is a molecular biologist for Procter & Gamble. She has recently been part of a campaign that highlights women in science and encourages girls to go into the fields. She has worked in research on both human prostate cancer and lung disease, and she is up and coming in her field. Next, we have Joy Buolamwini, who is the poet of code, and she founded the Algorithmic Justice League, which is here to create a more ethical and inclusive world of technology. Her TED Talks are featured on algorithmic bias and has over 1 million views. Her MIT thesis methodology uncovered large racial and gender bias in all services from companies like Microsoft, IBM, and Amazon. She's an inspiration to all young women. I hope you enjoy our program today, and I want to thank all of the people that contributed to our Black History Month celebration.
We will now turn it over to the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Tutwiler.
Hello, I'm Dr. Tutwiler, proud superintendent of the Lynn Public Schools. I'm honored to participate in what is my second Black History Month celebration at Classical. Special shout out to Ms. Tobacco for the invitation and for the other departments and students that are collaborating on this important celebration. As an African American man, this month carries special significance and meaning for me personally. I remember quite vividly when I was about 11 or 12 being made to sit down and watch the first installation of the Eyes on the Prize series. For those who are unfamiliar, this was and probably still is one of the most powerful documentaries on the civil rights movement. Now, I can't lie to you. At the time, I was not excited at all to sit down and watch a history documentary. But my mother was no joke. And I don't think I had a choice in the matter, neither did my brother. At the end of the day, I remain incredibly indebted to her for it, because this documentary really opened my eyes to the depth of the struggle and perhaps more importantly, the lengths to which Black folk have gone for justice and for equality. I just remember being moved by the images and video depicting incredible bravery, relentless efforts, and the element of coming together to achieve a common goal. Watching evoked two opposite feelings, one of deep resentment and anger based on some of the things that I was seeing, the way that Black folks were treated, but also pride in the way that we responded and in many ways overcame. At the time, I was familiar with the history of slavery, and I knew there was race and racism, but I'd never really seen anything like what I saw on the Eyes on the Prize film. And it remains for me an important source of reflection about what Black History Month is all about. A little more than 40 years ago, Black History Month officially came to be. Then President Ford rationalized the official recognition, declaring the need to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every endeavor throughout our history. Recognizing accomplishments throughout every endeavor throughout our history. Yes, Black History Month is about the contributions, but also the lived experience, the element of triumph. 2 years ago, I was fortunate enough to visit the National Museum of African American History and Culture in our nation's capital. This place is amazing. For me personally, I felt a sense of pride unlike I've never felt before as I moved throughout the museum. There were such incredible displays telling the story of African Americans in this country. I distinctly remember going to one section where they displayed album covers from the late 80s and 90s rap artists, and just being moved almost to the point of tears. For the music that I listened to when I was a teenager to be worthy of being depicted in this space, in a museum, as part of the story in this country. I think this is what former President Ford was referring to in declaring this month as an important one for recognizing the contributions decades ago or more, but also those closer to the present day. As African Americans, we stand on an important legacy and history. The elements of courage, resilience, and ingenuity are a few of many things that are part of our legacy in this country's history. This month is about acknowledging that, but also the fact that the story continues and the writing utensil is in our hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tutwiler. Your strength and leadership means so much to the entire school community. Let's turn to our next guest, an author, entrepreneur, and self-care advocate. Let's give a warm welcome to Vic Breedy.
Hello, Lynn Classical High School. My name is Vic Breedy, and I'm an author, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a self-care advocate, and most importantly, I am a graduate of Lynn Classical High School, aka Cooley High. Yes, happy Black History Month. Thank you for having me here today, virtually. I wanted to talk to you about the importance of Black history and celebrating the achievements of Black people. It is so important for us to see people, positive images of people that look like us. And when we don't see that, I believe that it impacts the decisions that we make growing up. You know, we put limits on ourselves because we don't see people doing those things. And I can't tell you how invaluable it was for me to attend a program. It was an after-school program, more of a night program. It was called the Greg House. And at the Greg House, they taught us about Black people. I learned about Black authors, Black poets, Black inventors, Black people in government. All of these people I didn't learn about in school. In school, I believed I learned about slavery. I learned about Rosa and Martin and Frederick Douglass because we are in Lynn. Other than that, I didn't get immersed with Black culture and Black history until I got to college. So can you imagine going your whole, life, until adulthood? Well, yeah, you're in college at 18 to 21, 22. So not until I was out of high school to really find out about Black people that have contributed to this world, if it was taught while I was in kindergarten and elementary and middle school and all the way throughout high school, how would that have impacted my life? How would it have impacted the decisions that I've made? Would I have gone for things that I didn't go for because I didn't see people that looked like me in those positions? You know, would I have pushed myself? You know, when you hear about people that have done great things, it inspires you to want to do great things. You know, and when they look like you, that it's even better, right? But what if you grow up and you're not exposed to people doing great things that look like you? What about if you grow up and all you're exposed to is negative stereotypes, you know, and you're traumatized, you know, by watching the news each night? You know, you see what happens to people that look like you. You see that there are some people that don't want you to win. But Black History Month is our turn to show up and show out. We should be practicing, you know, not practicing, but we should be learning about Black history 365 days of the year. We should be celebrating it. I believe that. But during February, it is time to use your platform and let them know that we've been in the building. We've been winning. We've been contributing. So let us tell you about it. Let us celebrate ourselves, our ancestors. Speaking of ancestors, you know that saying when they say, I am my ancestors' wildest dream? That's you. That is you. You are proof of your ancestors' strength. You are proof of your ancestors' resilience. Some of your ancestors were enslaved, and despite that, they survived, and therefore you survived, and you are here. That, oh my goodness, that speaks volumes of our strength as a people. We have overcome unspeakable adversities. Celebrate our people. Celebrate Black people. I created a brand. I'm wearing my hoodie right now. It says Genetically Resilient. To celebrate people that have overcome adversity and bounce back from it. That's my piece. That's my portion. That's something that I've done. What are you going to do? I've written 5 books. I've also published a self-care journal. I did that, I'd like to say, because I was exposed to other writers and other poets. You know, but had I not been exposed to that, would I have written 5 books? You know? Had I not been exposed to innovative Black people, would I have created my own, you know, self-care group or, you know, brand, Genetically Resilient? So take this time to use your platform and celebrate the accomplishments of your ancestors. I get great pride because I know what we've accomplished. And I question, what is it like to, what would have been like for me not to have been exposed to that? Would I have the same level of pride? I'm not sure. I honestly want to say no. I want to say, because I was exposed to the greatness of Black people, I'm proud. I'm even more proud than I would have been had I not been. I'm not sure if that makes sense to you guys. What I'm trying to say is, we need to see people that look like us in positions of power, in positions of greatness, doing great things, inventing great things, creating great things. Because in turn, we look to those people so that we can see that it is something attainable. You know, for a long time, I know, at least many people of my generation, they didn't believe that we would ever have a black president. And it wasn't until 2008 that we did. But we did. You know? And because we did, now the next generation will see that it's attainable and they may aspire to it. I'm sure the people of my generation may not have aspired to it because they didn't think that it was something attainable, because they'd never seen a black president. What impact will you leave? You will one day be an ancestor. I know you're young, and I know that's a long time. You don't even want to think about being an ancestor, but you will be. What will you leave? How will you inspire somebody else? I didn't come from, a rich family, and I was still able to be successful. So I want to say to you, don't use excuses. Lean on your elders, lean on others for support to get the things that you want to achieve in life. Don't use excuses. We limit ourselves with negative self-talk. I don't want that for you. I want you to be the great person that you already are, but I want you to show everybody your greatness. I want you to unleash it. Unleash your greatness. We are a great people, and we celebrate our greatness during Black History Month. I'm positive that because I was exposed to black poets and black writers, it inspired me to want to write and be a poet. I actually recited a poem when I was a teenager by Nikki Giovanni called Ego Trippin', and I absolutely love that poem. I think that it's a poem that celebrates our greatness and our strength. And I actually recently wrote a poem, and it made me think about that poem because the poem that I wrote is called Fluorescent Black, and it also is a testament to our greatness. And I can't help but think, had I not been inspired, at a young age by Nikki Giovanni, would I be writing poetry today? Would I be writing books today? So I'd like to share that poem with you. I have to read it because it's a new poem and I haven't memorized it yet. But I want to share that with you. So for all of my poets, this poem is entitled Fluorescent Black. My particular melanin emits light. We are the young, gifted, and bright. Black. So black it glows, our heads held high, no teeth exposed. The darker the berry and chocolate milk, and Kuntis keloids healed like silk. A love supreme, a love supreme, a love supreme. Regina King and a black man painted blue. Walking on water, Araminta helped the descendants escape by wading through. Our deeply hued skin is the vibranium you marvel and seek. A certain type of energy birthed the work of Toni Morrison and Ta-Nehisi. Formerly enslaved, vagrant, incarcerated to recidivist, systematically oppressing our greatness and lynched if we resist. Resilient genes, natural hair, a 10-point plan, and a raised fist. You can't crack its code or its skin. My black is fluorescent. And so is yours. Your black is fluorescent. You are great. Our people are a great people. celebrate Black history this month and every month. Happy Black History Month, Lynn Classical High School.
Hello, my name is Alka Barua, class of 2023. Untold Stories, A History of Black People in Lynn is an upcoming collaborative exhibit between the Lynn Museum and members of Lynn Black community. Opening March 2021, this exhibit plans on exploring the history of Black people of Lynn from the colonial period to present day. Focusing on individuals, events, and thematic areas, the exhibit will cover a wide variety of topics, including culture and identity, the lives of free and enslaved people, and the significant leadership roles Black Lyners have played in the community. In order to tell this nuanced story of Black life in Lynn, the collaborative exhibition committee have chosen objects and photographs from Lynn Museum's collection. In addition, the committee has looked into the Lynn community to share their objects, photographs, and stories. The exhibition team will also use collected oral histories of Black Lynn residents, conducted by North Shore Community College students as part of their service learning at Lynn Museum.
With her poem, aptly named The Hill We Climb, 22-year-old Amanda Gorman became the youngest poet to speak at a presidential inauguration Wednesday.
In the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is.
Gorman's stirring performance was met with a standing ovation. On a day for the history books, former President Obama tweeted, Amanda Gorman delivered a poem that more than met the moment.
Last month at the presidential inauguration, we met 23-year-old Black woman, Amanda Gorman. On display in front of the entire country, Gorman stole the show while becoming the youngest inaugural poet in U.S. history. Now to Ivana Massey and Jocelyn Mensah, both part of the class of 2023, who will recite the very same poem, The Hill We Climb.
Hi, my name is Ivana Massey, and I'm here with Jocelyn Mensah, and we're going to be reading The Hill We Climb by Amanda Gorman. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in the never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We brave the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the names and notions of what just isn't always justice. And yet, the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country, in a time where a skinny Black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew. That even as we hurt, we hoped. That even as we tired, we tried. That we'll forever be tied together victorious. Not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promise to Glade, the hill we climb if only we dare. It's because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it.
We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. This effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith, we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it, we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, How could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be. A country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens, but one thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change, our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. With every breath from our bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the golden hills of the west. We will rise from the wind-swept northeast where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwest states. We will rise from the sun-baked south. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover. And every known nook of our nation, and every corner called our country, our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge, battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light. If only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
What powerful words. Thank you. As we all know, this would not be a celebration without some music. Let's hear it from our very own music department.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let us resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun, let our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Wow, what an amazing performance. Moving on, our school social worker, Mr. Bishop, is no stranger to the power of words. His talents extend outside of the school facility. Today, he joins us in this celebration with his original spoken word piece.
It's that heavy, impending sense of dread. Man, not today. Family events, get-togethers, holidays, loved ones, hugs, formalities, casually catching up. They instigate, then up and subsequently drop the gloves. It's baffling. But it's anticipated. It's nothing new. You love your country, true red-blood Americans through and through. And you set out to prove they knew that you didn't consider handouts, self-sufficient, use your bootstraps. It was all you. And you're all an inspiration, templates, examples you set that hard work, determination meant the vision really does come true. You threw your bum hand of cards and said, if you start in the gutter, it just doesn't matter. Be stronger, be faster, be bolder, drop your shoulder, power through. But these biases, they leak out. Find me frozen in my tracks, don't know how to appropriately react. Predictably dismissed when I speak out. Wait, understand. My constant standoff with abandonment is real. Just the thought of losing approval, it's no surprise I freak out. Left there staring at that chasm, clashing definitions of moral decadence. Explicit core convictions so far apart, and yet we're relatives. Agree to disagree, elect to leave it at the door. Believe home's no place for war, a sure sign of respect. Yeah, the hell it is. There's no lending empathy. Wait, what'd you just say? I can't ignore that. Listen, my intense adjacencies, they inform my positions. Cause I'm positioned in the thick of it. Often honored as an advocate, my preoccupations are disparities, inequities, and callousness. The abhorrent notion that possessing people as property was a right. Social construction, forced subordination, owning another's life. And the asinine refusal to concede to these facts, this was all built on their backs. That deck's been strategically stacked since the valorization of being white. The audacity to seize, simply muster up regime, lay a foundation, construct a gilded system, then justify the greed. That national identity ran parallel with scheme. Others labeled other, just monopolizing dreams. And with proven liberty, maneuver freely, front to back, side to side, social status ratified. Eventual illusion of dismantling. You know who's still pulling the string? The problem we all live with, Ruby Bridges. Dr. King had no dream, amassed attention and continuation of painting of fine territorial lines of inferiority. Let freedom ring. This insistence, instantaneously a playing field was level. To swing the bat, it's simple. But third base don't make a triple. There's no clear path to the middle to placate or convince you. All we have are loud voices against these proud boys with pistols. When a structure is unstable, don't you make it known? Do you build on a foundation full of gaping holes? When the same fence remains in place but some have higher ground, you act surprised when the tired try to pry it down? The Jesus we believe in gave us love, divine, it's conquering, it's unfaltering, and it unifies. We need to believe in healing, it's all in due time. You raise your families, it's fine. It's just not how I'm raising mine. But let your light shine. Don't let them bend it through their prism, directing separation and directing clear division. It's okay when they don't listen. Speak your truth and don't ignore. Love's an act of heroism, and love always endures.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop, for those influential words. Our final guest is a graduate of Lynn Classical High School. He is a local speaker and activist for the Black community. Put your hands together for Daryl Murkison.
Hello, students and faculty. My name is Daryl Murkison, and I am a board member for the Community Minority Cultural Center right here in Lynn. And I am the past president of the North Shore branch of the NAACP. It gives me great pleasure to be here with you this morning to give you my perspective on Black History Month. I think it's important for me to try to share with you some of the reasons why I feel as though Black history is very important, very important. I think that Black History Month is not just important, but essential. It's essential to the total development, culturally, to all Americans, not just Black Americans, Black and white, and all others, included, Asian, Hispanic, Native American, no matter who they are. I think that it's essential to everybody to know like a truer history is what we're trying to provide. Again, what I'd like to do this morning is just try to relate to you that we as Americans, we've been indoctrinated by our educational systems, as well as our society in general, to disrespect, marginalize, and devalue Black people. And we're just trying to correct that. This attitude has been pervasive throughout time, and it has no bounds. It really has no bounds. So we're trying to move in a more positive direction. It has prevailed like an albatross. It's like a knee upon our necks for the past 400 years. 400 years. The celebration of Black History Month serves as a mechanism to deprogram, and reteach. Reteach a truer version of history, which would be to great benefit to all of us, to all people. I'm going to start with the beginning, how Black history was developed. It was started by a man by the name of Carter G. Woodson. He started Black History Month as a week, and then it evolved into a month celebration. It was first celebrated back in 1926, and he thought it was important for all of those reasons. All the previously mentioned reasons that Black people have been devalued, they've been dehumanized, they've been marginalized, all those different things. And he wanted to bring a truer version of history to people. And that's why Carter G. Woodson started Black History Week, which evolved into a month. Carter G. Woodson, he wanted to empower Black people and enlighten all people about the monumental contributions that Black people have made to the world. The history of Black people in America, as we know it, started over 400 years ago in this country. But there's been evidence of an African presence in the Americas, which predates those times 400 years ago. Africans have made some transatlantic voyages to the New World. There's evidence of that as well. The transatlantic slave trade traded and transported an estimated 40 to 60 million Africans from the continent of Africa to North and South America and throughout the Caribbean islands. They were separated from their tribes and their families and enslaved in a new world. No familiar customs were present. The story of the African diaspora is how African people, though dispersed throughout the globe and scattered all over the world, still managed to survive and to reform their identities in this new world. Some elements of their culture were able to endure, such as folklore and some other things that were to link them to their past as Africans, but not as much as they would have had. Our history, let's just say, has been fractured and dispersed all over the world. It's called the African diaspora, the dispersion of Black people all over the globe. In the process of what I call the Americanization of Black people, they formed a new culture known as Afro-American and also Creole. The melting of African people has begun. The deprogramming and reteaching, I would hope that it will continue today. It starts now and continues. People of African descent have distinguished themselves, and they've made tremendous contributions to the development of the world community. The contributions include just about any and every aspect of life. Spare none. Spare none. And I try to offer you some of those things today. We have inventors like Jan E. Matzeliger, who happened to come from Lynn. He was the maker of the shoe lasting machine, which was a machine that actually jump-started the Industrial Revolution and made Lynn, Massachusetts, the shoe-making capital of the world. But that machine was made by a Black man. That's part of Black history, Jan E. Matzeliger. Also, we have a man by the name of Gary A. Morgan. He was the inventor of the gas mask. The gas mask that's used by many fire departments today all over the world. And also the traffic light. As you know, anyone that drives a car, anyone that's walking up and down the street, know that the traffic light is an essential and important part of how pedestrians and people in motor cars get around today. It's absolutely essential. So some very important things that people have done. Also, Dr. Lewis Howard Latimer, he worked for the Edison Company, but he was the inventor of the electric light, the first electric light with a carbon filament that made the light bulb actually last. But Thomas Edison got the credit for that, but he worked for the Edison Company as a draftsman. And that's Lewis Howard Latimer. Then we go into some of the artists that we have. You know, there are many examples of black art that's all over the world. It's been underappreciated, but we have some of the greatest artists in the world. And people are starting to recognize that now. Some of the works of someone like Romeo Bearden, or Joseph Halston, LaShawn Beale, Annie Lee, Paul Goodnight, and Archibald Motley Jr. We have many sports figures like Hank Aaron, Jackie Robinson, Bill Russell. You know, some of these names will be very familiar to you. You know, as I go on with this, you're going to see me list a lot of people here because I'm trying to cover a lot of ground. Some will be familiar and some will be new to you. But I think it's important that you get it because it's a lot of information to retain, but I think it will be retained somewhere in your conscious or subconscious. So I'll continue to list these names. Again, I'm going to end with a few more athletes like Jim Brown. We have Wilma Rudolph, Willie O'Ree, and P.K. Subban, those hockey players. Florence Griffiths Joyner in track. Simone Biles, an Olympic gold medalist in gymnastics. There are so many others like Althea Gibson, a tennis player, Serena and Venus Williams, Tiger Woods, Arthur Ashe, and the list goes on and on. And we also have some present-day politicians. We've had politicians in the past as well. Going back to the Reconstruction days, we've had politicians like P.B.S. Pinchback, who was one of the first governors in the state of Louisiana back in the 1870s. All right, current day, you might look at somebody like Senator Ed Brooke right here from Massachusetts. You have Vice President Kamala Harris, and we have President Barack Obama. And let's not leave out, again, one of the first governors in our country, Deval Patrick. And those are just a few of the politicians we have. Shirley Chisholm, many others. All right. I'd like to go into even, we have people that were astronauts, like Guy Bluford and Dr. Mae Jemison, that were astronauts. Then we got to get into some entertainment. And, you know, that list of entertainments, I'll try to keep it short, but that list is extremely extensive. So I'm going to speak fast and try to bring them along. We have dancers like the Nicholas Brothers, Sammy Davis Jr., Katherine Dunham, and Josephine Baker. Modern day, you could even include somebody like Beyonce and Megan Thee Stallion. And some of our musicians and entertainers include Louis Armstrong, Sarah Vaughan, Billie Holiday, Sam Cooke, Michael Jackson, Mary J. Blige. And let's not leave out some of these rappers that we have here. They've impacted our culture as well. So I'm going to hit you with NWA and Tupac and Biggie, Salt and Pepper. And then we go back to the great Marian Anderson that sung for Eleanor Roosevelt. And then we may have somebody like Miles Davis, Dizzy Gillespie, and John Coltrane. I guess I'll close out that section with what I might call royalty. Somebody like Duke Ellington or Nat King Cole and Miss Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul. There's so many others. But then I have to delve into something a little more academic. We've had great historians like John Hope Franklin. Who else was there? We had Carter G. Woodson, who was, as you know, the founder of Black History Month, along with Henry Louis Gates and Cornel West. All of these are great historians as well as academics. Then we want to go into some of our educators like Booker T. Washington, Mary McLeod Bethune, William Edward Bernhard Du Bois. Then we we want to go into, again, sticking with education, we are so fortunate, so fortunate. I think it's very important that you listen to this particular part, that we have at our disposal right now historically black colleges and universities all over the United States, particularly in the Southeast, but HBCUs, as they're called, historically black colleges and universities. And I'm going to list a few of those for you. But before I do that, I think we're just extremely fortunate to have these historically black colleges and universities, because they actually came into existence because of segregation, when black people were not allowed to attend higher education. They had to establish their own institutions. And, it was difficult for them, so they did enlist the help of other white people to do that. And so black people and white people alike helped to establish these black institutions. So familiarize yourself with some of these names. But let me just say this. Historically black colleges and universities are the last bastions, the last remaining bastions of culture and pride, which continue to nurture and cultivate our young people, to challenge them and bolster their self-esteem. A HBCU is the one place that a young person can go to where they know that their success or failure would be of their own making, and it will not be predicated or even determined by the color of their skin. I want you to listen and to remember some of the names I'm about to list to you of these HBCUs. A place like Cheyney University, Wilberforce, Delaware State, Bowie State, Hampton University, Howard University, Maryland Eastern Shore, North Carolina A&T, North Carolina Central, Fisk University, Georgia State, Clark Atlanta, Morehouse and Spelman, FAMU, which is Florida A&M University, Bethune-Cookman College, Tennessee State, Alabama A&M and Alabama State, Alcorn State, Jackson State, Tuskegee, Southern University, Arkansas State, Morris Brown, Bennett College, Lemoyne-Owen, Albany State, Morgan State, Grambling, and Prairie View. That's just to name a few, but there are so many of which you to choose upon. So please, young people, consider an HBCU. They're a great source of education in this world, can help foster your culture of being black and give you value. Appreciate that. We also, would be remiss if we left out some of our freedom fighters, our revolutionaries who have been vilified historically in our history books, simply because they stood up for what they thought was right and they wanted their own freedom. They wanted to fight for their own freedom. They were vilified for that. So I present to you somebody like Gabriel Prosser, Denmark Vesey, Toussaint Louverture, Nat Turner, Huey P. Newton, Bobby Seale, Eldridge Cleaver, Angela Davis, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King Jr. It was said by some of our founding fathers, quote, "Never is it wrong for one to strike a blow for his own freedom, or give me liberty or give me death." Does these quotes not apply to black people? Lastly, we have black people in film and cinema. We have writers and poets. I want to close with them, because so often they feel the pulse of the people. Their work in many ways reflect the mood and climate of the time, whether it be socially and politically, and also artistically. The films of Oscar Micheaux, one of the first black film writers. The films of Oscar Micheaux in the acting artistry of Paul Robeson. The films of John Singleton in the artistry of Omar Epps and Tyra Banks. The films of Spike Lee and the artistry of Wesley Snipes, Cinda Williams, Denzel Washington, and Ossie Davis. The writings of such people as Lorraine Hansberry, A Raisin in the Sun, Alice Walker, The Color Purple, Toni Morrison, Sula, Zora Neale Hurston, Every Tongue Must Confess, and James Baldwin of The Fire Next Time. And don't leave out August Wilson, Fences, and Ralph Ellison, Juneteenth. Finally, the poets. The poets who put down everything to verse. They tell a multitude of stories. They expose truth in lies, joy in pain. They write it all down. Langston Hughes, The Night is Black and Beautiful. Nikki Giovanni, Ego Trippin', There Must Be a Reason Why. Paul Lawrence Dunbar, We Wear the Mask. County Cullen, The Incident in Old Baltimore. Sterling Brown tells of a story of They Come by Tens for Old Lem. In the great Maya Angelou. And let me read with this before I tell you about Maya Angelou. I can't help but saying, I'm going to just end by reciting her poem, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream to the current ends and dips his wing in an orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still. And his tune is heard on a distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on the dawn bright lawn, and the names the sky has owned. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts in nightmares scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, and he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown, but longed for still. And his tune is heard on a distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. I'd like to thank you folks. Thank you very much. And again, you might notice the shirt that I have on here. It says, I am Black History. That is just to illustrate that you, I, and everyone listening here, whatever we say today, we are the history of tomorrow. We are Black history. So, like someone once said to me, either you can stand back and just witness history, or you can get outside of your comfort zone and your space in your home and you can make history. I am Black history. So I thank you, Classical. Thank you for the opportunity to deprogram and reteach. Happy Black History Month and Black Lives Matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murkison. And to close today, we will hear a few words from our principal, Mrs. Dunn.
I want to thank you all for celebrating with us today. A special thanks to all the students, staff, and community members that contributed to today's presentations. And as always, thank you to Kristen Tobacco and Afton Dean, our technology team that has been continuously supporting our school community. Mary Jane McLeod Bethune was an American educator, stateswoman, philanthropist, humanitarian, womanist, and civil rights activist. And in her words, I want to leave you love. I leave you love. Love builds. It is positive and helpful. It is more beneficial than hate. Injuries quickly forgotten quickly pass away. Personally and racially, our enemies must be forgiven. Our aim must be to create a world of fellowship and justice where no man's skin, color, or religion is held against him. Love thy neighbor is a precept which could transform the world if it were universally practiced. It connotes brotherhood, and to me, brotherhood of man is the noblest concept in all human relations. Loving your neighbor means being interracial, interreligious, and international. Thank you.
A special thank you to all of our speakers and performers who made this event possible. It has truly been an honor to lead this amazing celebration today. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time on LCTV.